Good morning, everyone, once again, and welcome to the webinar by Arcserve. My name is Sergey Zimin. I'm a pre-sales engineer for Arcserve Australia and New Zealand. In this session, we will cover a couple topics. One of them is ability to back up Office 365, namely Exchange Online component of Office 365 by Arcserve. And second topic, which goes along with the first one, is Arcserve UDP archiving. Before we go further, by the end of this session, you'll see this screen, and this screen will help you to find contact information of all team members of Australia and New Zealand. Dean and me are located in Sydney. Stuart is located in Melbourne. So by the end of this session, this screen will pop up again, and you will be able to write it down or take a screenshot of it. In this session, I hope you have found a section questions in your screen. So anytime you feel like you can shoot some questions, just use that section in the user interface, and hopefully I will be able to answer and see these questions. First question, why we're talking about backup and archiving? Why not either of these? Why we should consider both? As long as we can answer these questions listed on the left-hand side column, we should be in a good shape. So first of all, the main purpose of backup is to be able to recover from a disaster. We need to be able to use some point in time to restore to. On the other hand, with archiving, the main purpose of archiving is compliance and legal exposure, ability to search, and perhaps environment optimization, meaning that we offloading a mailing system and let archiving handle the majority of correspondence. Having said that, retention-wise, we don't need to provide a long-term retention with backup. And on the other hand, archiving by design handles as long as we need. So it can handle several years retained correspondence. Talking about content, with running mailing system, every time we do a backup of this mailing system, some mails could be there, some mails could be deleted or misplaced or whatever happens to those emails. Anytime we back up this mailing system, we are capturing the current state of this system. So obviously, whatever was there like a few years ago, not here today, is not going to be included in our today's backup. With archiving, since the main purpose of archiving is to retain as much of content as we can, all correspondence, whenever this correspondence had a place, will be included in our archiving collection. And this goes to the time when archiving solution has not even been introduced or installed for that particular site or customer or client of yours. And when I say it like that, what I mean is within archiving, some vendors provide an ability, and Arcserve is one of them. We do provide an ability to import a content which had been accumulated by mailing system prior to this solution being installed and configured. We'll show you a couple more places in the interface how it's done. Talking about data integrity again, with archiving, nobody, even administrator, is able to tweak or change a content. Edit is out of the question, delete out of the question. On the other hand, with mailing system running day by day, anyone can delete any type of information from that system. And definitely an absence of this item will be reflected in the backup taken from that time. Data accessibility. And when I say accessibility, I mean what you need to do. Obviously, you look for email for a certain reason. You need to read the content of it, right? So to get to the content of email is much better option with archiving. Archiving provides pre-indexed content search. So you can find anything you want from a single graphic user interface. You don't need to do any other steps. With backup, you need to recover content of it, and then you need to index it somehow, and then you try to find the content. So it might not be straightforward. Backup of Office 365 Exchange Online. That is our first topic. The concept is simple. On the left-hand side, we see Exchange Online, right? In the middle of this page, we see a UDP proxy agent. This is just a fancy name for agent, UDP 6.5. UDP stands for Unified Data Protection. This is Arcserve product's name, Unified Data Protection version 6.5. So the only component we need for that is the agent installed on a Windows machine. So it can be, think about this diagram like I'm sitting here in my office, home office, and I'm using my own Windows machine with this agent running on it. That's all we need. That's all we need to be able to back up content of Exchange Online. And since I believe in your ability to go through the wizard interfaces, I'm not going to spend much time on a few following slides here. Just point out a few things. Once you open interface, once you connect to the agent, one of the items you'll see is ability to back up Office 365 Exchange Online. Proceeding with these screens, you need to provide credentials of administrator who is able to back up content of this Exchange Online. And a little warning here says that you need to have certain rights to do so. And after agent connects to the backend, to Office 365 backend, we see a list of mailboxes here. So we will be able to select mailboxes to back up. And finally, we'll see just a normal conventional progress window. We are collecting this data. And we are storing this data somewhere. So typically within Arcserve, the most commonly used location would be RPS, Recovery Point Server, just another component which is designed especially to hold the data. When it's time to recover, you can find this item under Exchange Online Nodes. This agent will be listed there. So once you right click on this agent, you just go to restore. You find the time slice from which you would like to restore some items. You find a mailbox or group of mailboxes which you want to restore, or even expand the content of mailboxes and select a specific subfolder from that mailbox. And just a couple more questions to answer, whether you want to restore to original location or alternative location. If you go with alternative location, it will be recovered in the folder such and such, like you see here on the screen. And finally, you click OK and let it happen. That is a little story, short story of Office 365 compatibility by Arcserve UDP 6.5. As you have seen, concept is very simple, doesn't take too much time to configure backup task, and doesn't take a lot to recover content. Getting back to original discussion, which one is for which? Archiving. Now, why archiving, right? By now we know that the main goal of providing archiving is compliance, legal exposure, and optimization. And next slide just lists these items, right? So with the archiving in place, we are achieving these goals. The concept is simple, it's very simple. So today's session is not very difficult to comprehend because we have all diagrams which like takes 3 seconds to understand. On this diagram, on the left-hand side, we have a working mailing system. Whatever this mailing system is, it's working, it serves the clients. What we are adding to this mailing system, we are adding a single rule, and I'll show you this rule. This single rule is supposed to forward each piece of correspondence to the right-hand side of the drawing. On the right-hand side, we have Arcserve UDP archiving. By nature, it is virtual appliance. And this rule is defined in mailing system. Let me switch to the interface where I can show you. So in this particular screen, we are connected to the Exchange 2016. And this rule, which I created earlier, looks very simple. In the rule, we just provide an address of our archiving virtual appliance. We name it somehow, and we say that all correspondence goes, all messages from all sources goes to that direction, and save it, and that's how it's rule created. Once we create this rule, any correspondence will be copied and forwarded to Arcserve UDP archiving virtual appliance. On the top of it, as I said before, we have ability to import any correspondence which had a place before this system had been installed and configured. We just need to extract this content in PST format and use these PST files to import this content into archiving. Now, on this screen, which is more convenient for me to talk about, in the middle of this screen is archiving virtual appliance. And by nature, it is virtual appliance which can be deployed and configured within VMware, single SXI host or vCenter, Microsoft Hyper-V, and finally we have a flavor which can be deployed in Amazon Web Services, AWS. So 3 different flavors of this virtual appliance is available at the moment. Mailing system is listed here on the left-hand side, and mailing system can be anything between Office 365 and conventional Microsoft Exchange. Also Google Mail, IBM Domino, as you see here, and in fact it can be any other mailing system as long as you can configure this rule, forwarding rule, journaling forwarding rule. Access-wise, on the right-hand side of this diagram, we see 4 different types of access. So first of all, super admin, the guy who is able to configure the system and provide the core pieces of information for this system to run. Admin, to myself, I call this site admin or domain admin. Basically, a person who is able to configure everything in regards to a specific domain. Auditor, very interesting role. This person is able to search all content which had been archived. So this is just a search guy. And finally, employee. Employee is the one who is able to search its own content. Employee will not be able to see content by somebody else, but at least what employee can do is to find email correspondence where this employee was included. Let me switch quickly to my Outlook. Here in the Outlook, what's there for user, right? What user has to do with archiving? So one of the pieces of information here in this screen is add in by Arcserve UDP archiving, and I'm starting it right now. First, we need to configure it, provide address of this UDP archiving virtual appliance, provide credentials. So this is my own mailbox. And I can start searching content which had been archived. Give me a second. So once I find some emails, I can read them right in this pane. And if I want to, I can import only selected. Say I want only these 2 messages, or I can import all found messages. When I click on this button, and I'll show you in a second, this add-on creates UDP archiving subfolder in my mailbox, and all of these emails will be stored here. All emails which I found. And I can forward them, I can delete them, I can do anything with them, but the original collection of items in UDP archiving appliance had not been changed. And this is the main idea. Nobody can edit that collection. We can work only with copies of that. And it's probably a good time to switch to user interface of the UDP archiving. Let me do just that. UDP archiving appliance can be accessed by web interface. That's what I'm trying to do now. Let me just minimize a couple of things here. So in the beginning, it looks like this. And I have 4 typical user types to log into the system. So we will log in with 4 different types to see the interface. First, highest level is super user, super administrator. So as I said, super administrator can do only a core functionality configuration. Core pieces of information should be provided by super administrator. As you see on this screen, we need to know IP address of the system, fully qualified domain name. By the way, days to retain messages here on the upper right side is defined by default to be 3000 days, but we can change it definitely. We can expand size of the disk, as you see here, and few more things like restart system, shutdown system, upgrade system, and so on. Some statistics fields will be available here, health status, some items here. Auditing, just a very highest view. And finally, a few core items which super user has to do here. Provide domains. Note that you are not limited to work with only one domain here. You can keep adding as many as you want. Define profiles. So profile will explain what domain this profile belongs to, right? And then in the profile, we will include administrators. So basically, once we map a person to profile, we allow this person to work with this particular domain. And migration, as I said earlier, migration doesn't look too exciting, but if you click on the link on that page, it will open you another page from our user guide, which will instruct you step by step what needs to be done to import previously stored content into archiving. And this is a very cool feature. Once you do that, all content will be indexed and found via search. Let me log out of here and let me log in as a typical domain administrator or site administrator, whatever you call it. It just associated like that in my mind. So again, we can read details of what has been done, who logged in and did what. We can define users, and I just have to warn you, you don't need to define each user which can be found in AD. For that, we have LDAP association. Once you provide LDAP configuration, all users can be recognized by this UDP archiving virtual appliance. When we visit users, typically we want to add more admins for this site, for this domain, or some auditors. So instead of having one auditor user like I do have here, we can have a group of people for that, right? Also, very cool feature, you can define, being site or domain administrator, you can define a group. And when you define a group, that means that users which you list in the upper side of this page will be able to read content of the users which you form as a bottom side of this list. So it's very dynamic, very configurable, very like you can change it at any time, you can reconfigure it at any time, but the idea is those on the top of this page will be able to read content of those who are listed on the bottom of this page. And finally, retention rules. Retention rules can be overwritten. So let's say appliance is configured as 3000 days, whatever number you put here. For our club local, we have 3650 days, for instance, right? And legal hold. Any user or group of users listed here, a content from these users will be retained indefinitely. Again, let me log out of here. And let me log in as typical auditor type of user. So the main purpose of this type is to let this person to search all content archived, not only this own person content, but the entire collection of archived items. And this is auditing type of account. So as you see here, search can be fine-tuned based on these criteria listed here. Any material found on this page can be read in real time, can be examined in real time. As from that, we can grab this content and we can download selected item, or we can download entire collection which had been returned upon our search. When we download this content, it will be visible on our local machine as zip file with so many items inside, and each item will have EML extension. We just double click on this item and read the content of this email, for instance. And type 4 user of the system is typical users like myself. You won't see the difference, right? The only difference between previous interface page and this page is the items on this screen belong to me. I was involved in this correspondence. So this is my own collection of items. I can search my own collection of items with the same functionality. That's the difference between all 4 types of users for this system. We might get back to this interface, so I'm not completely logging out of here. I'm just trying to get back to the slide deck and see what else we can cover in this session. It was UDP demo. So we're getting close to the end. And just to summarize, the benefit of archiving versus backup. First of all, we have searchable content because content has been indexed constantly. It is suitable for legal search, suitable for compliance, records management, and optimization of the working mailing system. So, as I promised you, I'm switching to this page with a little bit of info about Australia-New Zealand team. I'm standing by for questions. Let me just examine what questions we might have by now. So, as I said, in your interface, you should be able to find a question section. If you expand these questions, you will be able to type in any question, and hopefully I will see them. Dean and I, we are located in Sydney, as I said before. Stuart is located in Melbourne. Doesn't matter, just pick a person, pick a line from here. Whoever you contact, whoever you feel comfortable talking with, we should be able to help you. Any questions you have about pricing, just ping one of us and we will provide you pricing options. Any technical questions you might have, I will be happy to connect you to people who know more than me. If I don't have an answer, but if I have an answer, even better, I'll share it with you right away. How is it priced? By mailbox? Yes, it is priced by mailbox. I don't have pricing in front of me, but from my memory, we have some small increments. So these increments are not that huge, and it should be within like 10, 15 mailboxes range. Thanks for the question. By the way, from our previous experience, the commonly asked question is why Arcserve UDP archiving? Why don't you like or don't accept the fact that Microsoft provides their own archiving for Office 365, for instance, right? A few reasons why, and the main reason, one of the main reasons, I just found out, well, I was surprised myself, but it looks like being user of Office 365 is not enough for you as a typical user to be able to search your own archived content. Somehow this functionality is blocked. And I do have a document with a few more items, like comparison chart, I should say. Let me just put it on the screen before you go. We're doing good in time-wise. Let me get to that. Archiving technical, like this one. Nope, sorry, the wrong one. Yeah, while I'm browsing, just shoot your questions if you have any. Ah, yeah. So, like this table. Well, for instance, Office 365, right? Today you are a user of Office 365, but what about data which had been accumulated over the last 5-7 years? What are you doing with it? Where is it? What do you need to keep in place to keep this data available, right? Not easy question to answer with Office 365, but with UDP archiving, you just provide PST format files and work out, just include this content into the same archiving collection. Easy. Minimal service grade, right? With UDP archiving, you can go as low as you want with Office 365 service grade. But if you rely on Microsoft Office 365 archiving, it will be expected for you to be on one of those levels, or go explicitly with archiving add-on, and so on. So not to spend much time on this table, just letting you know that this document does exist and I can forward to you. Just ping me offline and I will be happy to share it. Switching back to this information. Okay. Either my interface is not giving me all questions or you guys don't have any questions, which is okay, I guess. Any questions after this session? You know how to find us, right? So you see the information on the screen. Right, so it's been 30 minutes. We didn't plan to spend much more on this session. Normally with one topic, we were able to fit it in like 20 minutes, but 30 minutes is good too. And I hope you're not bored. I didn't try to, kill you with this interface screenshots and so on. We can keep talking, and I hope we will keep talking. Just contact one of us and I will be glad to help. Thank you so much. Have a good day. And thanks again for attending this session. It was very nice to serve you here.